So we've finished boiling our samples. We've boiled each of them down to 10 milliliters. And now after the boil, we added 30 mils of distilled water. So these ones are already completed, but I have one more that needs to be completed. So this measures out 10 mils at a time. So we'll put 10, 20, 30. So there's our 30 mils there. After that's completed, as I mentioned before, our soluble samples were filtered earlier on before the boiling process. So those ones will just get poured straight into the analysis containers that we have here pre-labeled. You want to make sure labeling is very important when you're doing any type of extraction. So then that is ready to go actually for analysis tomorrow. We store them in the refrigerator overnight, and I'll explain the end here once we're done filtering the other samples. So our total phosphorus samples, which are these ones here, actually get through a final filtration process after the boiling. So what we do is we have a flask, we have a pump that actually sucks the water through to be able to filter it. We have a small container here that holds the crucible with a filter down in the bottom that filters the samples. So we have to make sure we go with our labels, find the right container. We attach the final vessel for the sample at the bottom. This just allows for the suction to happen, so that's why we're using this big flask with the tube coming out. And then we'll turn the pump on, so it'll get a little noisy, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to slowly stir the sample as I go just to keep it well mixed. Pour into the crucible here where it'll eventually come down through and collect in the bottom, and then that's how we filter the sample for total phosphorus. So as you can see, the dripping is starting down below because that pressure from the pump is pulling that through the filter in the crucible. It doesn't take too long usually. And you can also see on the top where the sample is going down through the filter. Generally, these aren't very dirty, so you don't want to see much residue on that white filter at the bottom. But once it's done, turn the pump off, release the pressure, and take the crucible off the top. There's always a little drip or so that needs to fall down. Pull it up, and the sample's ready to go. So that's how we filter our samples. Once we do all the filtration processes and we pour all of our samples into the final container, we put them in the fridge overnight just for storage keeping, pull them out, bring them to room temperature. We had 2 different solutions and they actually turn a nice pretty color depending on how much phosphorus is in the sample. So we actually do a set of standards as well, which obviously go up. They start low and go high, so that's a good determiner as to where your sample lies even before we put it on the machine for analysis. We use a spectrometer for the analysis. Basically all we do is once this turns color, we put it in, the machine puts light through the sample and estimates how much phosphorus is in that sample with using refraction of light, and it'll give us a reading on the digital program for the spectrometer, and that is our final result, which we do calculations in Excel for to actually get a final answer for milligrams per liter in phosphorus. But that's the phosphorus extraction.